I thought this was a really interesting survey. This wasn't typical of just, going out and polling the American people on what they think about, border security or whatever. But there was a new Harris poll that surveyed children ages 8 to 12. This is more than 500 children that it surveyed across the United States. They offered unmistakable evidence, and this was talking about kids using phones and kind of like the experience of that age group right now. And the one thing that jumped out, of course, to the researchers was that we are in the smartphone age. The kids ages 8 to 12 are they either have a phone or they want a phone or they're using phones. They offered unmistakable evidence that this is the phone-based childhood is in full force. A majority reported having smartphones. A majority of kids 8 to 12 have smartphones, right? Not just the ones to be able to make sure that you can text mom when you're on your way home, but actual smartphones. And about half of the 10 to 12-year-olds said that most or all of their friends use social media. I guess we've talked about that ad nauseum about how social media affects kids. About 75% of kids ages 9 to 12 regularly play online games, but most children in the survey said that they aren't. This is what I thought was funny. Not funny, but interesting. 75% of kids ages 9 to 12 are playing online games. So they're going out into the world and playing games with other adults and other kids that are out there. But most of the children in the survey said that they're not allowed to be out in public without an adult. So they can go onto the internet where God knows what is out there, and who knows what is out there communicating with these children, and yet the parents won't let them go out in public without an adult. Fewer than half of 8 to 9-year-olds have gone down a grocery aisle alone. So you won't even allow your 8-year-old to run around the corner to grab the box of cereal they want, but you'll put them online to talk to God knows who. The grocery store aisle, more than a quarter aren't even allowed to play unsupervised, even in their own front yard. And so what this study showed is what I thought was interesting was that what the kids are longing for is unsupervised play. And so if you gave kids the option, they said, we asked them to pick their favorite way to spend time with friends. Unstructured play, such as shooting hoops, exploring the neighborhood, participating in activities organized by adults, such as Little League or doing ballet, or socializing online. There was a clear winner. Children want to meet up in person, no screens or supervision. And so the idea here is that what they want is unsupervised play. And so since they can't go out in their front yard or they can't go down to the park without mom or dad, right behind them, they're going online. And that's, of course, even much more dangerous. And that's what this study says is, letting your kids going online where millions of people could have access to your kids and saying and communicating with them and God knows what. But they'll let them do that, but they won't let them go down to the park by themselves with their friends to play stickball.
Remember when we were kids and it was like, if I see you in the house before the street light comes on, you're grounded.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And
maybe things are different. I don't know, but
they're not. No, they're not. Well, are they? They are, but they shouldn't be.
Right.
There was that we had Stranger Danger, with trademark back then too. But nowadays, if that is something you wear, like our 10-year-old, one of the things that we do, we slap a smartwatch on him and kick him out the front door, like during the summer. It's that or you got to go to childcare. You know what I mean?
Right,
it's
right.
And
so at least there's some guardrail. You've got some protection that if they don't come back, at sundown, there's at least a way to, you've got some protection there. You know where they are, you know where to find them, or they can communicate with you and text you or whatever.
Absolutely. The limiting factor there is just the Texas heat.
Right.
But there's another thing is, and then this is, you don't need to. This isn't going to cost you an arm and a leg. A lot of places around here, because we like to do everything's in HOAs and subdivisions and stuff like that. Most kids, and I will say most kids, have access to a pool, whether it's at a Y or at the neighborhood or whatever the case might be, and trade off with other parents taking the kids to the pool, and that's kind of. It seems like so simple, but like when I see it, I would never let my kids play Roblox. Which I know that in and of itself it tries to do a good job, but like there's no redeeming value to it.
Right.
there is redeeming value to outdoor play. Now, I will push back on one of these because I think the grocery aisle one could be a little bit misleading. Have you ever been in line with your mom at the grocery store and she goes, "Oh, I just need to go get something," and then the line starts moving and she's not back yet? I to this day have trauma about that. So that's probably something we want to ease kids in a little more. A little, because the grocery store is a harrowing event. Like what me at 10 years old is gonna have the money to buy that.
But the lesson is not that, like, social media companies or online companies or whatever are addicting your kids to online games, and that's what's happening. These evil tech companies are trapping your kids online. The reality is that that's the only place where kids can find quote unquote unsupervised play, because parents won't let them go out into their own front yards, or won't let them go and play by themselves at the park down the street, with their friends or whatever. And so really the parents got to look at themselves and say, if I don't want them playing video games all the time, how do I figure out a happy balance where they can have some unstructured play and even unsupervised play, and still, feel safe that they're not going to get abducted or fall off a roof or something.
I don't know if it was in one of our chats here, but I did see somebody, like, it might have been Jonathan Haidt, even wrote something like, in defense of letting your kids get hurt or something like that. Yeah. And I'm like, that's, I was about to say, I think that our, sports careers, up through the age of, high school, we practically had an orthopedic surgery residency done because of, cut up knees and stuff like that.
So maybe it is, educating parents on that for sure, because one of the pieces of the study also said that they asked parents, if you let your child go to the park unsupervised, what do you think would happen? 60% said they would get hurt, and 50% say they would get abducted. Which, I don't mean to laugh about that, but like the idea that half of parents,
every other kid's getting abducted,
right? Or that half of parents think like that's what happens when you go, and then they go into a lot of statistics and show like how rare and how there's not like an epidemic of like random children. And I know I say that knowing that like we still see video of that, and there was actually one that just happened over the last couple of weeks where there was video of a child just getting randomly abducted. But again, the opportunity for that, or at least the likelihood of that, is so low compared to what actually happens.
You're more likely to get struck by lightning.
Yeah,
while at the park.
Or if you are worried about that and those things that are out there, the potential for that does scare you, at least try to structure it in a way where there's one parent to, taking, like you said, the group of kids are going out there and there's one parent there, or they have communication devices on them that aren't smartphones or that kind of thing. Maybe that's a way to get it done right.